Hey guys, welcome back to the Citizen Geek channel. It's me, Maddie G, and today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts with you on the new movie Crimson Peak. Crimson Peak was directed by Guillermo del Toro, whose previous films include Pan's Labyrinth, The Devil's Backbone, and the Hellboy series. Now, like Guillermo del Toro's other films, Crimson Peak is very much a dark fairy tale / ghost story told in his signature unique style. What might surprise a lot of people though is that a lot of the movie is actually build up. Guillermo del Toro actually spends about the first half of the film building up the story and the characters. We actually get to spend a lot of time with these characters before the darker stuff starts to happen later on in the story. Now, some people might find these parts of the movie a little slow or disappointing or just boring, but I really appreciated Guillermo del Toro taking his time and telling us the story. As with all of his films, Guillermo del Toro's sense of style is breathtaking. Allerdale Hall, the Crimson Peak of the title, is a marvel of set design, a memorably haunting visage of crumbling and decaying Gothic architecture that always seems to be literally oozing blood from its nooks and crannies, while the hole in the ceiling of the main room that lets it snow inside and the swarms of black moths that fly around the house also add kind of a dark fairy tale element to it. One of my personal favorite aspects of the film is in the score. Throughout the film, del Toro uses a slow, perpetual beat that plays in the background of a lot of scenes. Sometimes this beat is caused by the working machinery of Allerdale Hall, or sometimes it's just there with no real explainable reason. But it often underlines many of the scenes, and at times it feels like it represents both the dark, beating heart of Allerdale Hall, as well as the tribal drums of some sinister dark ritual taking place just off screen, or just below what's actually going on. The designs of the ghosts are really cool too. Now, while we don't get to see a lot of them, the style that Guillermo del Toro uses in depicting them is really kind of cool and interesting. Now, while I really enjoyed the film, I did feel like the ultimate resolution of the story was a little bit disappointing. Given how much time the film spends building up suspense in terms of what's actually going on, I was personally expecting a much bigger and crazier and much more supernatural reveal in terms of what the mystery behind the house actually was. As it stands, the actual reveal is pretty obvious. I mean, if you've seen any of the trailers for the movie, then you probably already have a good idea of what's really going on. There are also a few plot points that didn't quite make a whole lot of sense when the movie was all said and done. Now, this is going to be a really big spoiler alert, so I'm going to put it up right here and just say spoiler alert before you go on any farther and watch this. From this point on, I'm going to dive into some of the major story elements, so if you don't want it spoiled, stop now, go see the movie, and come back later. Okay. Here we go. Given how much the main character's mom's ghost liked to show up and give her vaguely ominous warnings about what was going to happen later on, why couldn't her father's ghost have just popped up at some point and been like, hey girl, listen, I just got murdered by crazy incestual Jessica Chastain. Do not go to Crimson Peak. You hear me? Do not go to Crimson Peak. Okay. Also, Allerdale Hall is Crimson Peak. Just so you know, the place where they live is Crimson Peak. Allerdale Hall, Crimson Peak. Same thing. I'm sorry your mom didn't make that more clear. Also, to be honest, Crimson Peak just really isn't all that scary. Now, Guillermo del Toro is one of my top 5 favorite filmmakers. I will watch everything the man makes, and I think he's made some really amazing films in the past. In fact, he's already made what I think is one of the greatest ghost story movies ever, a movie called The Devil's Backbone. And that came out a few years before he kind of really became popular here, and if you've ever seen Pan's Labyrinth, it really plays like kind of a sister film to that. It also takes place during the Spanish-American War, and like Pan's Labyrinth, while it's very dark and very creepy, it also has a real emotional underline to it. And that's kind of the difference between that movie and Crimson Peak. Crimson Peak looks beautiful, and it's got an amazing design going on, but it doesn't have the same emotional pull or undercurrent that something like The Devil's Backbone or Pan's Labyrinth did. If you haven't seen The Devil's Backbone, I strongly recommend you see it. If you liked Pan's Labyrinth, or if you saw Crimson Peak and really liked that, you should definitely check it out. Overall, I felt like Crimson Peak was a good Guillermo del Toro movie, not a great one. But you gotta keep in mind that when it's a director like Guillermo del Toro, even his films that are just good are usually better than a lot of other directors' great films. So while I had some issues with it, overall, I really liked Crimson Peak. I thought it looked amazing. I highly recommend you check it out if you like a good ghost story. But just know going in, it's a little bit slow. It's not super scary, but if you like Guillermo del Toro's other films and you're interested in being told a really good story, you should check it out. Thanks guys very much for joining me here again on Citizen Geek. Let me know what you thought. Leave a comment below. Have you seen Crimson Peak yet? Did you enjoy it? What are some of your favorite ghost story films? Are you a fan of Guillermo del Toro's other films like Pan's Labyrinth? Have you seen The Devil's Backbone? What did you think of that? I know a few people who actually say they like The Devil's Backbone more than Pan's Labyrinth. Thanks guys as always for watching. Take care, and I will see you again real soon.